Hi there, Smart Driver, talking to you about traffic signs. This is the component of the Smarter Defensive Driving System under the subcategory of observation. You need to look at, read traffic signs and glean the information from them to be a safer, smarter driver and reduce your chances of being involved in a crash. And we're talking about reading road signs, and I was talking about how important it was driving through British Columbia here, and I'll talk more about that and driving on highways and keeping yourself safe, and especially with fall coming, shorter days, longer nights, driving at nighttime, locating road signs and using those as landmarks to figure out where the roadway is going and in which direction you're going to be pointing your vehicle. For those of you new to Smart Drive Test, my name is Rick August. I was a truck driver in the 1990s. I hauled freight between Ontario, Canada and the United States. I became a licensed commercial driving instructor in 1997. So I've been doing this for a very long time, and I need to get off my butt. I need to start getting myself out of bed early in the morning and finish my book on the psychology of driving, because I'm just like fascinated by it. And the last piece a couple of weeks ago, cognitive dissonance, was kind of the last piece. And there's an academic in Indiana, down in Elevator Fans neck of the woods there, that I need to get in touch with, who was talking about cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is when you have two opposing ideas and how you rationalize one piece of information so that it aligns with your opinions about the world. And driving is all about that in terms of how people drive and their actions when they're behind the wheel of a vehicle. So I need to get going on the psychology of driving and getting that going. I need a book agent is what I need. I need somebody to help me get this published, because I want this book to be published, because I just think that it will be so valuable in terms of academia and traffic safety and road safety internationally. So that's what we're working on. Commercial driving instructor in 1997. 2006, I graduated from the University of Melbourne with my doctorate in legal history. Legal history is the study of policing, courts, and prisons. My expertise, oddly enough, is policing as it relates to traffic. So kind of the turn of the 20th century, from horse-drawn traffic to motorized traffic, and how policing and law changed to increase road safety in the face of enormous increases. Traffic speeds went from 6 miles an hour to 30 miles an hour in a matter of 25, 30 years. Now, you may not think that's very much, 6 miles an hour to 30 miles an hour, but that's kind of like saying in the next 40 years, we'll be driving around cities at 180 miles an hour. Now, just try and wrap your head around it. That's basically what happened at the beginning of the 20th century with motorized traffic. While I was going to university in Australia, I drove buses for Greyhound and one of the regional bus lines there as well. So I have bus experience. Most of my driving instruction was with big trucks, logbooks, air brakes, commercial vehicles. I have done some driver rehabilitation training, teaching people how to drive with hand controls who had debilitating injuries, lost a limb, sustained a brain injury, and were returning to driving after a couple of years. Because if you know anybody who has experienced a brain injury, that you know that after 2 years, that's as much cognitive and physical ability that they're going to regain in their lifetime. And some of the brain injury people that I worked with would be really great for a couple of days, and then the next day they would come in and we would be driving towards a traffic island and a utility pole, and I'd say, "Hey Jake, what's going on today?" And they're like, "Oh, I'm just having an off day." And I'm like, "Okay, let's just postpone today, we'll reschedule, and you can come back on another day that you're having a better day." So this is some of the people who are dealing, recovering from brain injuries and returning to active lives. You want to know more about me, know more about what's going on with the Smart Drive Test YouTube channel, check out the autobiography over at the Smart Drive Test website, and all kinds of great information over there. Good things to have a look at. Why do I get a dash cam? All kinds of reasons to get a dash cam. Protection against liability if you are involved in a traffic crash. If you are learning how to drive, you can come back and look at a situation on the video, and you can revisit it, go through it, and say, make some really good decisions. You and an instructor or somebody who's a mentor helping you out to learn how to drive, they can go over the video footage and say, "Hey, you should have done this, or stopped here, or signaled here, done these kinds of things." So dash cams are inexpensive. You can pick some of them up now for about $65. And I'm going to be doing some reviews on dash cams as well. So good record of what's going on in the vehicle. Do know that dash cams are not just watching what other people are doing as well. They're also watching and monitoring you as well. But good reasons to get a dash cam. Shoulder checking, master shoulder checking. This is the top reason, probably the top reason why most students fail a driver's test. And I have had many, many, many smart drivers come back to me over the years and say, I didn't pass my driver's test because they didn't shoulder check. They needed to learn how to shoulder check. Unfortunately, somebody did not teach them. I'm sure that they were misinformed about what was going on and that they needed to shoulder check, but have a look at that video down in the description there. Shape of the sign, the colors, and the words or symbols thereon are how traffic signs communicate information to road users and allow them to glean information quickly. These signs, for example, are construction signs because they're orange in color with black symbols and lettering thereon, and they're diamond in shape for the most part when they are construction signs. But construction signs are orange background with black lettering and symbols thereon. The one on the top says that the lane on the right ends, and the one on the bottom says that the lane on the left ends. So know that when you're reading traffic signs. The words and symbols thereon and the colors, and they are classified into groups. Some are more standardized than others, but for the most part, traffic signs are in classifications which will allow you to identify them quickly. Road sign classifications, regulatory signs. In the States, railroad crossing signs are part of the regulatory classification, but here in Canada, they are not. School signs are probably the least standardized of all the traffic signs. I have seen every different kind of school sign, diamond shapes, pentagon for the most part. One thing that is consistent about school signs is that there are 2 people on them as opposed to 1. One person on a traffic sign is playground and other recreational areas. Cautionary signs tend to be diamond in shape, yellow background with black lettering and symbols thereon. And these were incredibly important when I was driving across the country 2-lane mountain roads with all kinds of curves. At one point, my daughter said to me, she was sitting in the back seat, she's like, it feels like we're on a roller coaster here, because it was just like 1, 2, and up and down and around the corner. Lane control signs tend to be above the lane and will tell you what you can do in that lane, whether you can proceed straight through the intersection or you can turn left or you can turn right. And then object marker signs. Object marker signs, as I just said, these are probably the most prolific signs on our highways, and they have hash marks on them. They're rectangular. They're probably 24, 30 inches high, and they have hash marks. And think of it like a kettle of water pouring onto the hash marks. The side that the water pours off is the side that you want to pass. So pass left, pass right, or they are chevrons, which is a triangle, half a triangle, 2 parts of a triangle, and you can either pass left or right. So for example, if there's a traffic line with a right turning lane, a slip lane, and there will be a hazard obstruction sign there with the chevrons on it, and you can pass either left or you can pass right by taking the slip lane, the right turning lane there at the traffic island. Regulatory signs, stop signs, speed signs, as I said, railway crossing signs. Tim corrected me on this, and I thank him for that. That railway crossing signs in the US are regulatory signs, but here in Canada, they are not regulatory signs. Okay, stop signs, speed signs, brake check signs for commercial vehicles, large commercial vehicles are all regulatory signs. The root word of regulatory is regulation, and therefore it must be obeyed. It is the law. And if you have an action contrary to a regulatory sign on a driver's test, you are not going to pass. You are not going to be successful on your driver's test. This is why rolling through a stop sign is usually an automatic fail on a driver's test. And the other bit that was a little bit disturbing on the drive back across from Nelson back to Vernon here was the number of camper trailers that I saw on pickup trucks, and even the 3/4 ton pickup trucks. Most of these trailers and trucks were overloaded, because when the truck and trailer, it should be sitting level on the back end where the trailer connects to the truck. When it's sitting like this, when it makes a V, the trailer's overloaded. Cautionary signs, as I said, these are diamond in shape. They have yellow backgrounds and they have black letterings or symbols thereon. These are warning signs. Some of them are relevant and some of them are just a cautionary sign that are there to give you some information. Some of them will save your life, some of them not so much. If you're driving larger vehicles like camper vans and you move up to driving a bus or you start driving semi-trucks, you need to pay attention to height signs, and this becomes incredibly important for semi-truck drivers, low overpasses, bridges, those types of things. And I was talking about this on Twitter. There was another driver in a semi-truck doing a U-turn and somebody had posted it, and I left the comment that, when did U-turns in a semi-truck become a thing? I'm not even comfortable doing a U-turn in a car, let alone in a 75-foot vehicle. You need at least 4 lanes of traffic to safely make a U-turn in a big truck. Not that I would ever advocate it. And not to mention the damage that you're doing to that unit with the axles and chassis and those types of things, because these things are not designed to do that. So I digress, but height signs become important when you're driving buses, you're driving trucks, you're driving camper vans, anything that is deemed a commercial vehicle. So take cautionary notes. Now, I will say this about the curve signs, the cautionary speeds. If the cautionary speed was 50 kilometers an hour, I knew that I could take it at probably 70, 80 kilometers an hour. If the speed sign had a cautionary sign stating that the speed limit was 60 kilometers an hour for the curve, which is 40 miles an hour, then I knew that I could take it at probably 90 kilometers an hour, 100 kilometers an hour, which is 55, 60 miles an hour. The cautionary sign is for larger vehicles. In your own vehicle, you're going to kind of figure this out as you get more and more experience, but in the beginning, stay closer to that suggested speed for the curve. As the one on the bottom here, you can see it says 45 miles an hour. Do it at 45 miles an hour, but as you gain more experience, then you know you can go a little bit faster and still stay safe. And it's going to be under ideal conditions. If the road is wet or there's a bit of ice or snow or those types of things, you are definitely going to have to be near that cautionary speed to keep yourself safe on the roadways. Signs that become important for larger vehicles: if you're pulling a horse trailer, you're pulling a boat, any type of trailer, destination signs, overhead signs, construction signs, and match the speed of the flow of traffic. I do recommend this in terms of defensive driving after you get your license, but for the purposes of doing your driver's test, you must do the posted speed limit or the flow of traffic, whichever is less. If you speed for an extended period of time on your driver's test, you will not be successful. And I have talked about this previously, that your speed control is tied into your forward scanning pattern. So you are looking far down the road, check your centimeter, far down the road, instrument panel, far down the road, side mirror, far down the road, other side mirror, and you need to be repeating this every 15 to 20 seconds. So if your speed goes above the posted speed limit for more than 5 or 10 seconds, it tells the driving examiner that you are not paying attention to what's going on and your scanning pattern is not effective to keep control of the vehicle in changing traffic conditions. Lane usage signs work in concert with the road markings, so pay attention to the road markings as well. And they are overhead of the lane. You will find these on freeways and multi-lane roadways and the lane that you are in. So for the top sign, for example, you can only turn left, and in the right lane, you can turn left or proceed straight through. The one on the bottom, if you are in this lane and this sign is overhead, you can only turn left. So pay attention to the lane usage signs. These are probably well ignored. And if you were driving a truck and trailer or a larger vehicle and there are 2 lanes turning left, you always want to be in the outside lane, which means you want to be in the right lane, because you're going to get around the corner and off tracking is going to catch you and you're going to end up jammed up against a fixed object like utility pole or whatnot. Mile marker signs. People do not pay attention to mile marker signs, but these are incredibly important in terms of defensive driving. The only state that I am aware of is New York State. They like to be different in many things in terms of traffic regulations and signs and whatnot. Most of the time, the exit number and the mile marker number are one and the same, and these are good defensive driving strategies. It's the same thing as using your GPS will say stay straight on this road for 110 miles. Right? So 110 miles, and then something's going to change or you're going to have to turn or whatnot. So when I hear 110 miles, I take that number in my head, I look at my odometer and I add it to my odometer, and then I pay attention to my odometer. So for example, if my odometer is at 700, I know that when I get to 810 miles, that something's going to change. I'm going to have to turn, or I'm going to be at the ferry, or I'm going to be into a town, or I'm going to have to get onto a different highway, or those types of things. Now, when I get to 810 on the speedometer, or on the odometer rather, I am paying attention to what's going on because something in my driving environment is going to change. Mile markers will keep you safe, and exit numbers and mile markers are one and the same. And I've told the story before of the truck driver that I was working with. We were in Kamloops. He was going up the hill. Kamloops is a big hill again, like Nelson. It's a city built on a hill. And there was a big truck in front. He wanted to know if he could pass because his exit was coming up, and we were at exit 370, and his exit was at exit 375. And I said, well, your exit's at 375. How far up the road are you going to go? And he said, oh, I don't know. And I said, well, what's 75 minus 70? He said, 5. I said, well, you got 5 miles up the road. Can you pass the truck in 5 miles and then get back over to your exit? By taking note of what the exit number is, if it's at 370 and you're at 375, you know that you got 5 miles up the road. Now you're going to start paying attention to the exit numbers and going, okay, I got 2 more miles, 3 more miles, I got another mile up the road, half a mile, and then I'm going to get off the roadway. It'll help you and keep you safe on freeways, interstates, and state roads in the US with exit numbers. Good luck on your driver's test, and remember, pick the best answer. Not necessarily the right answer. Oh, hello, I just got back this morning from Nelson, which is in the deep interior of British Columbia, and drove across 2-lane highways, up and down, twisty turny, and road signs, traffic signs, what we're talking about today became absolutely critical in terms of driving safely on those roadways through the mountains, 2-lane, concrete barriers, knowing what hazard obstruction signs are, knowing slowing down to the cautionary speed that's suggested for going around the curves, and maintaining your space from other traffic on the highway, because you do not want to get into trouble by rear-ending other traffic and bunching up. And ideally, to be safe on highways, you want to drive in the spaces between the clusters. You want to have that 3 to 4 second following distance. The reason we use 3 to 4 second following distance is speed is relative. So therefore, if you're in the city, it's a certain amount of length, for example, 10 car lengths. And then when you get out on the highway, that doubles 20 car lengths. So it opens up. This is why we use time to measure following distance. And the way that you do that is the car in front passes a fixed object. You start counting 1 rhinoceros, 2 rhinoceros, 3 rhinoceros. And if you go past the same fixed object before you get to 3 seconds of following distance, you're too close and you need to increase your following distance. Now, people are going to say to me all the time, if I leave space in front of me, then people are going to cut in. Yes, every now and again they're going to, but for the most part, you are setting an example to other drivers on the roadway. And I have found in the past few months of paying attention to this and observing this to teach you better that other drivers behind you, if they see a big space in front of you, that ideal 3 to 4 second following distance under good traffic conditions, they too will increase their following distance, not sit up on your bumper and tailgate you. So set an example for other people. Now, obviously, this is going to change a little bit if you're in congestion in the city and whatnot. Of course, the distance is going to shrink up, but pay attention to that following distance, okay? That is critical. You need that following distance to work and glean information on the roadways and take note of the traffic signs, because in cities, traffic signs are much more difficult to read and see because they're just lost in the meal. There's your big word for the day, the meal, the just absolute inundation, overwhelming inundation of traffic signs and other signs, billboards and whatnot within the cities. But when you get out on the highways, it's obviously a lot easier to look and take in, glean the information from traffic signs and keep yourself safe. The other piece about traffic signs is in inclement weather, when it gets foggy, rainy, or light conditions deteriorate at night, you can use them as landmarks to determine where the roadway is going, especially if you're on a dark 2-lane mountain road, rock, tree, concrete barrier. You need to be looking for those traffic signs to be able to locate the roadway and keep yourself safe when you're driving. We were in Nelson for the last 2 days because yesterday was a professional development day. The kids were off school. Obviously, they've been off school for 4 days. Here in Canada, it's Truth and Reconciliation Day. It's a public holiday. So we went to Nelson for a couple of days with our French exchange student. Nelson, as you may or may not know, is a city built on a mountain. So if you go away from the lake, you are going uphill. And it is a good hill. It's probably 3 miles of straight down to the lake. And that city has seen an increase, a tremendous increase, I would argue, because the electric bicycles allow people to flatten out the hill. This was the barrier for many people riding a bicycle. And now that we have electric bicycles, these people, I just see them going up their hill and they're like, do, 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 because as long as you're pedaling, the electric motor is active when you're riding the bicycle. So there were many, many, many electric bicycles in and around Nelson that's built on the side of a mountain because people want to ride their bicycles. And it's fun to do so, and it's a inexpensive alternative form of transportation. So I am going to predict that in the next 5 years in industrial countries, first high income countries, I think is now the PC term for that, that we are going to see a tremendous increase in the number of traffic deaths of vulnerable road users. Communication, it's the same thing as signaling, and what I say to people: minimum 3 flashes of the signal before you change directions of the vehicle. 1 flash to get the other person's, usually a driver's, attention, 2 flashes for them to locate you, and the 3rd flash for them to take some sort of evasive action or to help you out. The 3rd flash, people have said, oh, people will intentionally block you if you signal, so therefore when I change lanes, I don't signal, which is irresponsible, to say the least. Usually what's happening is people are not intentionally blocking you. They're intentionally trying to speed up to get out of your way, to make room, is what they're doing. Start paying attention to road signs as well. They will allow you to be proactive and predictable on the roadways, because you'll look down the road, you'll see a merge sign. Oh, my lane is coming to an end. I'm going to get over early into the other road, and I'm not going to get jammed up at the choke point down there, because the zipper merge is not something that works, and it will never work, and is poor defensive posturing. Don't do it. Don't wait until the choke point. Get over early, maintain your space around your vehicle, have your minimum safe distance, keep yourself safe when you're driving. Read road signs, glean the information, and incorporate that information into your smarter defensive driving. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Have a great day. All the best. Bye now.